When I got married, I never told my husband about the $68 million my father left me. Not because I didn't trust him. Because my father, a four-star general, a man who spent 40 years reading people for a living, made me promise. His last words to me weren't, "I love you." They were, "Don't tell anyone until you have to." Not even him. I thought that was just an old soldier being paranoid. A man who'd seen too many good people destroyed by money. I was wrong. He wasn't paranoid. He was right. Because 3 days after my wedding, my mother-in-law showed up at my front door. She wasn't holding flowers. She was holding a lawyer's business card and a folder with my name on it. That's when I understood. My father hadn't been protecting me from strangers. He'd been protecting me from family. My name is Captain Elena Whitmore. Before I tell you what happened at my door that morning, you need to understand who I am. I grew up on military bases. My father, General Marcus Whitmore, was gone more than he was home. Bosnia, Iraq, Afghanistan, rooms I never got clearance to ask about. But when he was home, he was fully home. He taught me to shoot a rifle before I could ride a bike. He taught me that discipline wasn't punishment, it was love with structure. He also taught me one strange lesson, over and over, like a mantra. People don't love money, Elena. They love what money can do for them. And they'll smile at you the whole time they're planning how to take it. I didn't understand that until I was 31 years old and standing at his funeral, watching relatives I hadn't seen in a decade suddenly remember how close we all were. 2 weeks after we buried him, his lawyer called me into an office and told me my father had quietly built a private investment portfolio over 30 years. Real estate, defense contracts, smart, disciplined bets made a soldier's salary at a time. The total, after everything, came to $68 million. All of it in a trust in my name only. He was very specific, the lawyer told me. No joint accounts. No changes without your signature. And he said, "Forgive me." These are his words. "Don't let her tell anyone until she understands why." 6 months later, I married David. David was kind. At least, that's what I believed. We met at a fundraiser for veterans' families. Ironic looking back. He was charming, attentive, said all the right things about respecting my career, my rank, my independence. His mother, Diane, was a different story from day one. She had a way of asking questions that felt like inspections. "So, what does a captain actually make? Are you two combining finances? David mentioned your father was some kind of general. Did he leave you anything?" I always deflected. Politely. The way you're trained to when someone's fishing for intelligence they have no right to. David laughed it off. "That's just my mom. She worries about money because we didn't have much growing up." I believed him. I wanted to believe him. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't find out until later, is that Diane had spent months doing her own research. Public records. Old news articles about my father's retirement ceremony. A probate filing that mentioned a trust, even though the exact number was sealed. She didn't know it was $68 million. But she knew it was a lot. And she'd already decided, long before the wedding, that some of it belonged to her family too. The morning it happened, I was making coffee in sweatpants, still technically on my honeymoon leave. The doorbell rang. I opened it expecting a delivery. Instead, there was Diane. Beside her stood a man in a gray suit holding a leather folder, introduced simply as Diane's attorney. "Elena," Diane said, stepping past me into my own house without being invited, "we need to talk about the inheritance." I felt my whole body go still, the way you go still in the field when something's wrong before you can even name what it is. "What inheritance?" I asked, careful, calm. The lawyer opened the folder. Inside were printed articles about my father, a copy of a probate notice, and a draft document, a family financial disclosure agreement, asking me to voluntarily list all assets from my father's estate, in the interest of transparency, now that you're part of this family. I looked at David, who was suddenly standing behind his mother in the doorway, not meeting my eyes. "You told her," I said quietly. "I didn't tell her the amount," he said. "I just mentioned there was a trust." That single sentence told me everything. My husband, 3 days into our marriage, had discussed my father's private legacy with his mother behind my back. And his mother had shown up with a lawyer to formalize her claim on money she'd never earned, from a man she'd never met. My father's voice came back to me instantly. They'll smile at you the whole time they're planning how to take it. I want you to understand something about people trained the way I was trained. We don't explode. Explosions give away your position. We document. We observe. We plan. I smiled at Diane. I told her I needed time to review the paperwork with my own attorney, which was true, though not in the way she imagined. I asked the lawyer to leave a copy behind. I thanked them for coming. I closed the door like nothing had happened. Then I sat down at my kitchen table and started making calls. First call, my father's estate attorney, a woman named Patricia Hale who had known my father for 20 years. I read her the disclosure agreement word for word. She went quiet for a moment, then said, "Elena, this document isn't just inappropriate. It's designed to get you to voluntarily waive protections your father spent years building into that trust. Someone wrote this to look friendly. It isn't." Second call, a family law attorney, to understand exactly what David's disclosure to his mother meant for us, legally going forward, because a marriage built on a secret conversation like that wasn't the marriage I thought I'd signed up for. Third call, I didn't make. I let David make it. When he came home that night and found me sitting at the table with both documents laid out in front of me, along with a printed transcript of everything Patricia had explained. "We need to talk," I told him. "Really talk. About what you did and about what your mother is trying to do." Here's the part Diane never expected. My father hadn't just protected the money. He'd protected the story around it. The trust included a clause, one Patricia had flagged for me on that first call, stating that any attempt by outside parties to pressure, coerce, or manipulate me into disclosing or dividing trust assets would trigger an automatic legal review and could be used as grounds to further restrict access for anyone connected to that pressure. My father, apparently, had drafted this clause after watching another officer's family get torn apart by in-laws after a large inheritance. When David admitted, under Patricia's formal questioning, that his mother had asked him directly about the trust before the wedding, and that he'd answered, it wasn't just an awkward family moment anymore. It was documented. In writing, with a timeline. Diane's disclosure agreement backfired spectacularly. Instead of gaining information, she'd handed my legal team a clear paper trail proving exactly what my father had warned me about, a calculated attempt to extract money from a marriage that was 3 days old. I didn't need to raise my voice once. I didn't need a single dramatic confrontation scene. I just needed the truth, organized, time-stamped, and shown to the right people. I didn't drag this into a courtroom in front of strangers. I did something my father would have respected more. I brought everyone to one table, and I let the paperwork speak. David's father, Diane's ex-husband, hadn't heard about any of this. When I explained, calmly, what had happened, the questions before the wedding, David's confession, the disclosure agreement delivered by a stranger to my front door, his face changed completely. "Diane," he said, "tell me you didn't do this." She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The folder was still sitting on the table between us. David, to his credit, finally said the one true thing he should have said from the beginning. "I made a mistake. I should have told you the second Mom asked. I should have told her it wasn't her business, or mine, before I even said a word. I'm sorry. It wasn't a full redemption. Trust, once you've watched someone hand a stranger information about your dead father's legacy, doesn't just snap back into place because someone apologizes at a dinner table. But it was honest. And for the first time since the wedding, it felt like David finally understood what my father had been trying to teach me my whole life. Diane never got a single dollar. Not because a judge ordered it, because there was never a case to make. There was only a woman who'd shown up at the wrong door, with the wrong folder, underestimating exactly who she was dealing with. My father used to say that real strength isn't the fight you win loudly. It's the fight you win so quietly, the other person doesn't realize they've lost until it's already over. I never yelled at Diane. I never had to. I let the truth, written down and organized the way he taught me, do the work for me. David and I are still figuring out what our marriage looks like now, slower, more honest, with far fewer secrets than we started with. My father's money is still exactly where he left it, protected, untouched by anyone who tried to take it without earning it. If there's one thing I want you to take from this story, it's this. The people who love you for the right reasons will never ask you to prove your worth with a number. And the ones who show up at your door with a lawyer 3 days into your marriage were never really asking you a question. They were testing how easily you could be taken. Don't let them find out the answer is easily. Protect what's yours, quietly, patiently, and completely. If this story hit home for you, let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to protect something from your own family? And if you believe in quiet strength over loud revenge, hit subscribe. There are more stories like this one coming.